Next on stage, I would like to welcome Jan Karlsson. He is the CEO and founder of FreyZein. Hopefully I've said that correctly. Outerwear. There's Chiara Colombi, Associate Professor and Design Department at the Politecnico di Milano and the DeFINE Network. There's Simon Hjelte, who's the business developer at Borås Inc. in Sweden, and Lars Mattiasson, who is the CEO of xPlot platform. They're going to be exploring the opportunities available to fashion tech startups hoping to move forward. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi.
Thank you much, Aneta. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for your introduction. I'm very happy to... Can you hear me now?
Can you hear you perfectly?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. So welcome everybody, and welcome to our public. I hope that you were here already, as this panel is going to be the natural continuation of the previous one, as we are going to discuss more in details which are the purposes and needs of a tailored business mentoring and coaching program, which has been one of the core activity of the DeFINE projects. As the idea of the project has been not only creating a network that can support the startups and SMEs in the fashion tech sector, in finding the right partner, in finding suppliers, or in finding opportunities for collaborations and funding, but also in getting better knowledge and skills to support the development of ideas and reaching a higher level of competence in order to be competitive on this market that we have seen is progressing very fastly. So our panelists have quite an experience being part of accelerators and incubators, mentors of different programs, and also offering startups support that span from a strategic perspective to an operational perspective. And also we have Jan from FreyZein, so a startup that has been part of the DeFINE project. So I'm happy to have this dialogue between the two main actors of mentoring program. So I would like to ask the perspective from supporters, let's say, of startups, asking Giusy, Simon, and Lars, which are the specific needs that you mostly see are asked in support programs from fashion startups.
Should we just take the word, or do you want to give us the word?
You want me to rule?
Yeah, please
so
do.
Let's have Giusy. Let's have Giusy to continue, as she already warmed up, and so you may follow her.
Okay, thanks, Chiara. I think that there are different needs that startups have to covered in their in their journey, and it depends on their stage, of course. So if they are at the very beginning, I think that there are some more gaps in the market, because it's not so easy to find maybe a vertical accelerator that can help those startups that are not yet in the market to get support in terms of the definition of business model, understanding customer needs, and so on. While when they go more towards acceleration, maybe it's a bit easier. And in that case, I think that what those type of startups need to understand the most is the product market fit. We were talking about this in the previous panel, that in some cases, especially for the B2B, startups are more tech driven. So they are not so aware about which is the type of issues that they're solving and how this is perceived by the corporate. So the shift of mindset towards the customers is always something that we found it difficult for startups to understand, unless maybe the entrepreneurs don't come from the fashion industry, so they were more on the other side before. So this is, I think, the core, I would say, of support that Accelerator in general provides. Then there are some others, but I will leave the other speakers to contribute.
Yeah, Simon, from your experience at the Borås incubator, what's your perspective on the different needs that you have seen are the most important so far for startups when entering a mentoring or coaching program?
I would start by saying it's crucial who asks the question. If it's the startup themselves who ask that question and me answering, I would probably be answering in a way that they're not looking to be answered, being that what I see is a very, very important need and gap to close is bridging the understanding about what a startup is from a fashion perspective. Just as Giusy was talking about, they are often very, very concentrated on their own offering before asking the market if there is a need. So they tend to develop the product too long and then putting it on the market and hoping for it to work. Whereas technology startups often come from the other perspective. They look for a problem and they find a solution and they work iteratively to improve that solution in order to solve that problem. So they don't really speak the same language. So I would say it's important for fashion companies to understand what a startup journey is. And for the technology companies, imagining then that the teams are consisting out of fashion representatives and technology representatives, to understand the need of a more finished user interface in order to get realistic answers from the market. So that kind of gap of understanding is a specific need. So I think Giusy is really onto something when she says they need to understand the concept of product market fit.
Thank you, Simon. And Lars, from your experience at xPlot platform, which is not just focused on fashion tech, but more in general on creative industries, what's your perspective?
Actually, listening to Simon, I can see what actually this is a really gap in the market or the value chain, because we are a hybrid accelerator. We're taking place, we're actually positioned in the tech incubator from the beginning. So we're handling the culture and creative industries and also fashion, of course. And we are inside the tech incubator. So I can totally agree with Simon when he says that the tech companies are more like into the user experiencing together and develop with the customer and the client along the line, along the different process for beta and so on. And that's something that I can't see that much in the fashion companies or the creative industries as well. So I think there is a gap there, and there's also a gap, I think, what Giusy talked about as well, when it comes to actually help ideas to enter a low threshold into innovation system with the multiple ecosystems that are actually fertilizing each other and help each other. And it's not that much common in Sweden, to be honest. We need more like open ecosystems to create this kind of diversity that creates innovation. And that is more important than ever now than we have fashion, tech and creative industries together in different cases. And so I think a low threshold for early ideas, not only these high-end, cutting-edge fashion incubators, we also need the first threshold. I think that's really important, a low threshold for the first. entry.
Well, this is very interesting, Lars, as this is exactly what we have been experiencing in DeFINE. When we launched the first call, we were in some way following the main idea of hitting startups that needed they were already at the stage of incubation, but we have met many ideas that were even before incubation. So we have decided, of course, with an open and transparent selection, exactly to support this kind of businesses. So we have discovered that there's a lot of creativity, but a little bit also of confusion on how to get in a support program when you have when you have an idea. I do see that all the elements highlighted by Giusy and Simon are relevant in the sense that having this double soul, especially in fashion tech, is sometimes let's say like having two drivers that fight each other or are not very well connected and driving toward the same direction, but also being able to provide a clear guidance in terms of what it can be done at the stage where a company or a startup is. It's very much important. I think that's also this morning we have seen how difficult for a startup is to understand which is the right program and which is the kind of support they need. So I would like to hear from the experience of Jan at this point, understanding from your perspective. What do you think? What should a business support organization consider when incubating or accelerating or supporting at any stage a fashion tech business, especially at the beginning?
Yeah, like what Simon said was really interesting, because I think also, like for me, when I came into the fashion tech area, like I came from another segment. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I was selling beverages all over Austria and in German-speaking languages. And now since 2 years, I'm in this fashion tech, and like I had only the idea I want to make sustainable jackets. Like that was the starting point, and then I tried and did some research and get in contact with the circular economy and also with cradle to cradle, and found this really, really interesting. And we started also to make these jackets. And the more I came into this segment, I found also out, okay, like if I only sell those jackets on the market, like that's kind of nice, but it will not change something in this segment. So the more I dive into this subject, I found out, okay, this whole material side is really, really interesting for me, like about like the evolution of circular design. And I then developed something which is called bicircular, and it means like textiles can be textiles again. And in the end, they just are compostable, building nutrients for the earth. And that's combining two concepts of the cradle-to-cradle philosophy. And when it's about that, and that's really interesting, you know, for me as a startup, I have some background and I have some money, which I get from the other startup I founded already. But I think for other startups, it's really, really hard to finance this. You know, like if you want to be in this fashion tech area, how do you need money? You need really good people who help you with all of this. And there is a big gap. And something I tried out, or like my approach was to get in contact with a lot of such programs. Like it was with DeFINE, it was also with the Worth project, there was other programs and stuff. And this is helpful, because like it helps you that you are able like to get into the subject and really to develop all this stuff. And that's one of the most challenge. That's the challenge for me right now. And at the same time, and that's also really interesting, when I got in contact also with people who want to finance it, if you talk to investors or to banks, actually, they say, where are the revenues? Where are the revenues? And what do you do? And you say, okay, you have to develop something. And there is a gap. And I think here it's really, like all those accelerator programs are really doing a good job in helping startups as us with this. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jan. I ask you again to elaborate on a point that you have highlighted very clearly, how through the project, the programs that you have accessed, how these programs has been able to support you in getting to be able to get to be funded and or getting prepared to be able to access or to contact possible funding actors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This was a question, or?
Yes. How
Yes.
do you find was helpful, or which kind of support you have received from these programs? Because I'm asking this because I've talked in the chat with some startups that were not clear about the opportunities and how to use the programs that are available on the market, even if I understand that it's almost a job to understand how many programs are available and which is the right one at the stage of the business you are developing.
Yeah, and for me it was really crucial, like, to get somehow also financial support for programs. And like in Austria, I had contact to something which is called Science Park. They offered us office space, which is also really helpful. You know, you don't need to invest in office space or in computers or printers or something like that. And something I enjoyed really with the DeFINE project is this professional network, which is really crucial for pre-seed and seed startups, in my opinion. And they helped us also to find really good funding opportunities in all of this. And that's really important. And
Thank you, Jan. And I'd like to hear the other side of the situation, Lars or Giusy.
Yes, I have. I'm also an investor and a part of a 60 investor network. So we are quite many, but I say there's very little knowledge about the fashion tech industry or the fashion industry in general, and we need to actually talk to investors more about the potential of this industry, you know, coming to virtual fashion and all that's kind of the things that we're looking ahead of. And I think John is completely right. We need to talk more and engage more with investors to make them understand the potential, you know, because sometimes they are afraid, actually. We have invested in 40 startups, and I think only 2 of them are from the fashion tech industry. And I know that my fellow investors, they are really, afraid about this area. And I'm still promoting it, really, but still.
Yeah, I would like to second that, what Lars said. And the funny thing here, though, is that the public is being more aggressive than the private, even though the opportunity is enormous.
Yeah.
Because at our incubator, we are starting to see a willingness from the public sector, from the state and so on, to contribute to business model innovation, which is super important when we're talking about fashion tech, because you're not inventing something, but you're innovative from a business model perspective. But when it comes to the private, they don't really understand the fragmented value chain that comes along with textile. But I think we can't really place the blame all on them, because fashion is kind of a silo industry. So for fashion and textile to migrate out to tech, where there's tons of funding capital from private investors, the fashion players, if you're a startup, need to start to learn how to talk that language. How do you show them the value on a bigger scale, not only for your label or how you are used to presenting it to the fashion community? So that's also a challenge when we work with startups in the incubator. If they come from the fashion or textile perspective, they don't really speak that language, and that might be also relevant on an academic level, to include entrepreneurship with a higher presence and maybe merge technology, academia with fashion in some way to help them understand.
Yeah, definitely. The definition of fashion tech is so broad and so unclear that it's important. Education and creating awareness at the different level is it's definitely an element which is important. Giusy, what's your perspective on this? We cannot hear you. You're muted.
Excuse me.
Here you are.
No, I think that there is definitely a big problem for non-fashion tech, for fashion labels. There are many interesting projects that we have seen in the last years, but of course, from an investment perspective, at the very beginning, investing in purely in creativity is something that definitely can scare investors. So frankly, I haven't not yet found a solution for those type of new businesses. Of course, when they are able to grow, and they can, in some cases, we have seen brands that have been able to grow organically through their social media, and so when there is some traction, then of course it's especially if the traction is based online, it's a bit easier to convince investors. But there is a problem also. I mean, when some startups ask me, okay, so if we have an e-commerce, are we consider fashion tech, and so investors are going to invest? Well, actually, at the moment, I think the answer is no, because I mean, also having an e-commerce is not about tech per se, but it's about being innovative and so creating and addressing a large and growing market. So today, also if you're a D2C brand, well, mostly your segment might be already covered by another unicorn. So I think that it's really more about proposing something innovative that can answer a big market need. That's my perspective.
So about the possibility of creative and fashion tech businesses at any level they might be. There is a need. We have seen also in the discussion today. There is a need to get access to the latest tech. Jan, can you share with us your experience? How did you do it, coming from another sector? And so where did you find the opportunity to access to those technologies, or to the know-how to develop the technologies that you were needing for your business without being, let's say, driven by someone else? So without letting technology override your main purpose.
Yes, like environmental problems of the fashion industry were not created overnight, and it's the same for solution. They need some time until you can create solutions for this. And like when I think about FreyZein especially, we had this stage. Okay, we needed really good people helping us with the development of the materials, and we knew like that's it what we want to do. And we had also we tested it on the market. We had somehow this proof of concept, and as I mentioned before, like the starting point was, okay, we wanted to create really sustainable jackets, and at the same time, like through this approach and the need for money, and through this came this approach that we had to also launch some products on the market, or like we are now launching some products now on the market, because we need some revenues to talk to investors or to talk to banks and stuff, that we get money. But at the same time, we have like we have a lot of work to do with pushing this material development further, and that's something which is not really easy. And at the same time, you know, like we have two different, both things cost money. And here I've seen that it's really helpful. Like there are a lot of programs also in Europe, or especially also in Austria, which helps you with this. And I was able like to get around 300,000 of funding for this project, only for like for this idea, and that's great. That's a good thing, I think.
Right. That's good to hear. And Simon, as Borås Sync is part of a very structured situation where you have also the science park and collaboration with the University of Borås. How do you see the access to latest tech can be managed from creative and fashion tech companies?
I think I don't remember who said it, but fashion tech is a very broad term. So it depends on what tech we're talking about. I mean, are we talking about technologies for weaving and knitting, or are we talking about technologies for augmented or virtual reality, or the hybrid between? Because from our end, it's been super important, but also hard, trying to bridge the gap where we are not very strong. Since we used to be a pure fashion incubator, we are not anymore. We only support companies with an innovative offering, as Giusy said, that has a fundament of technology in some perspective. If it's a textile, we're very well situated in Borås, because it's been the textile capital of Scandinavia for 200 years. So we have everything that we need. But if it has to do with building a platform to make circular business models feasible by using blockchain or something else, then we don't really have a network. So we've been trying to, because I mean, Stockholm, which is in Sweden and only 4.5 hour drive from Borås, is only second to Silicon Valley if we're talking tech. But we're not really accessing that easily because there is no natural community in between the two. And since fashion and tech does not have a mutual playground, we don't really see the diversity in the teams when they're a startup either. So normally a thing to do to get access to the tech is finding a co-founder, finding someone who understands the offering and buys into that and wants to be a part of the journey. Does that explain the complexity of the situation? Because yeah.
Well, this idea of having, let's say, a fashion and a tech soul within not just the solution you want to propose, but within the organization follows some historical organizational models that we have seen when we were talking about the birth of Made in Italy. We saw creative and management getting together in a team to deal with this, and the hybrid nature of the sectors for sure push the need of a team that is multidisciplinary, and not just in the practical elements, but also in the strategic and in the background that is offered. Getting back to another point that has been already raised in many questions and answers, how do you think how much important is the access to the European ecosystem and network to grow this fashion tech business? So the dimension of entrepreneurship and the dimension of accessing an ecosystem, how much important is on your perspective? I want to ask this to everybody. So I don't know, maybe Giusy, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. No, I think that it's very important, because I mean, to scale in Europe is not so easy. You know, this is a main difference with some very large countries such as the US, where, with one language, one phone numbers, you can access 300 million people. In Europe, we know that it's much more difficult because, of course, you need to overcome different ecosystem, network, and so on. So having those type of projects where you can easily talk with key stakeholders in different countries, I think it can really help the startups that have applied to at least test the different market, understanding who are the key players and the main get access to data and information. So I think that it's definitely very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Simon, please.
No, I just wanted to say that I agree, and also wanted to add that, I mean, the European Union is one market, but there's around 30 countries that are involved in that union, and we have different areas of domain-specific knowledge. So, I mean, for a fashion tech startup, a combination between the Italian or French know-how of how to create a brand together with a Stockholm-based technology company should be an ideal match. So it's super crucial, I would say. It's very, very important.
Lars, what do you think?
I think we're talking about the ecosystem again. So it's that's the ground level of everything, I think. As soon as we can offer the entrepreneurs, whatever they come from, a more fertile multi-layer, ecosystem that creates a lot of doors to be opened, because I think, first of all, when starting out your entrepreneurial journey, like Jan, for instance, comes from another part of the business into the fashion area, you need to find the right door. You need to scout and source a lot until you find the right platform or accelerator or incubator to start off with. But still, this place, like the accelerator, need to have hundreds of doors open up to the global market. And specifically not only for the fashion ecosystem, but also for the tech system ecosystem, of course. We're sitting in Lund, so we're kind of close to everything when it comes to tech. We have Sony headquarters for innovation in Lund, for instance. We have Axis and the big companies, and we use that a lot. Sony also have their own tech accelerator on spot in Lund. And we have a lot of collaboration between different sectors of industries just to create innovation in faster and more efficient. So also there is a huge challenge for the university about tech transfer from science, from studies. And that means that we are actually helping to cross bridges to many different other ecosystems with scientists from the university, from the tech sector, to find markets together with creative teams. That's kind of a solution for the fashion tech area as well. I think you have to have this diverse team, and Simon said it really well. You had to find a co-founder as well. You have to have a diverse team, or actually you need to create it if you don't have it. So it's important to have a lot of doors to open as a startup, and that is something that we as accelerators or investors need to think about all the time. How could I help this startup to grow in a more sustainable way by taking it step by step and create use cases that are interesting for the industry, of course.
So building up on your answer, if you have to summarize based on your experience, which are the opportunities for fashion tech businesses to grow, which are the opportunity that, the existence of X platform and the incubators, accelerators, Borås fashion tech accelerator are one of the opportunities. But we have to list which are the opportunities beyond getting into a specific program. Which do you see are the ones most important right now?
The most important, if I may answer that, is kind of DeFINE organization. DeFINE project is super important because that gives a broad perspective over the whole ecosystem, I think. And probably it makes it much more easier for entrepreneurs to understand the whole geography of this innovation system, and all these kind of different actors that are running it as well, from investors to other startups and the other people involved as well. So I think DeFINE a project like this is really, really useful for entrepreneurs and startups.
Giusy, you want to add anything based on FTA experience and the knowledge you have, especially also of startups that were, let's say, at the stage of pre-incubation, I would say?
Yeah, I mean, no, for us, it's always very important to, as we focus more on market ready targets, it's always very important to have maybe other organizations to refer to, because of course we receive hundreds of applications, and unfortunately, it's very bad not to provide them with we try to provide with some feedback, but of course it's not doable for all of them. So having the possibility to refer to other programs, this is what we try to do every time with sharing other opportunities with our newsletter, social media, and so on. In some cases, I mean, there are some public programs that can help, that maybe are also more generalist. And I think that in the very beginning of the journey of a startup, this can be also good, because you need to define your business model. So probably you don't need expertise specific in the fashion industry. Of course, if it's not a hard startup, but it's more like digital new innovation and new business model and so on. So yeah, I think that's it. So we are very happy to use our platform in case there are other programs that want to reach out to our community as well. So I think that this is definitely something important to do.
Thank you, Giusy. I want to go back to the initial questions. I was following your lead and the topics you were covering, but I want to go back to the idea of the role, the need of a tailored business mentoring program in your experience as providers, mentors, and as a mentee, Jan. How do you see it? As based on what we have discussed so far, how do you see such activity of tailoring a business coaching activity is important for a startup to grow, to eventually get ready to scale up, to access or get in touch with accelerators, investors, and so on?
Yeah, like I'm convinced that cooperation and good networks are crucial for a startup. That's really important, that startups have such possibilities. And like, when I look back at the last 2.5 years, I was founding this company, like 1 year of this was through the Corona crisis, and you couldn't meet people. Like really, like it was possible, but it was really hard. You couldn't fly somewhere and stuff. And all through this, like in this crisis, you say crisis is always an opportunity at the same time. And I found out that if we talk now about European networks in fashion tech, I learned as entrepreneur that I really can connect with people through video conferencing tools and collaborative working tools, and that's really great. And I was now talking with an possible co-founder who is really experienced, and he's living 500 kilometers away from where I'm living. And 3 years ago, I wasn't thinking of that something like this could be possible. I was thinking, okay, you have to share an office space to make such things happen. And now such things gets really possible. And I think also for accelerator programs and all this stuff, it's really nice to connect and talk to each other. And I made also this experience that one of my mentors, we left, and I know her 1 year, and most recently we left about it because we were thinking we know each other from person, but it came up, okay, we don't know each other, it's only through video, and that something like this is possible. That's amazing, and I think that's also a really it's a great opportunity for startups to build such intense networks, also through that this crisis is also an opportunity, and that's something I really enjoy.
Thank you, Jan. And from the mentor perspective, Simon, how do you see tailoring a business coaching support is needed or important?
Well, I'm besides from DeFINE, I have firsthand experience 9 to 5 every day of there being a very clear need for a tailored program that widely respect the needs of real networks. I'm not just talking about I know someone who works in this tech community, but establishing networks both with the private sector in terms of companies and on academia and such, in order to develop a program that can help accelerate. Otherwise, if you are a generic or a tech incubator trying to assist a fashion or textile startup, you'll run into problems when you meet with the fragmented value chain and you don't know how to navigate. And vice versa. If you're a fashion incubator or accelerator from the beginning, you have previously been very occupied with thinking of how to develop a product from which supplier to get to the market. So you need to develop a program, which we've been touching on in the DeFINE program, that uses the both areas of expertise in one program, because otherwise it actually might slow you down, because you're in a silo instead of a community and a network that can help speed you up.
Lars, do you agree on this perspective?
Yeah, I was nodding. You saw that. So, of course, I think also when it comes to the thing that Jan mentioned, this situation, the pandemic has actually created a catapult into the new normal. And I think we're going to have a lot of hybrid accelerators, with the physical position or a physical place, but also with a lot of new toolboxes and methodologies for acceleration processes that we need to actually invent now to make it better, because we will probably die if we will be on Zoom every day. We need to do something else, we need to cross over with academia and also with the business world to create this kind of environment. And this is super important. I think this is the only way to encourage startups to enter new batches of acceleration. We have to create something that is really fun, and you can learn some, and you can cross collaborate with other entrepreneurs to actually grow your company.
Giusy, would you like to share your experience as well about the idea of building a tailored business programs?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for the types of activity that we do in FTA, we have actually started with providing tailored mentorship and support, as the more you go later in the stage, the more you need to do tailored consultancy, basically. I think that at the very beginning, as we were saying, the type of issues and topics are more generalistic, and they can. It's also very important to provide more lectures, workshops, and so on. But then you start to have real life, let's say, problems. So there are some common patterns, but then of course the type of issues are specific to particular business projects. as we said, of course, fashion tech can span from a second-hand platform to like software blockchain-based solutions. So definitely you cannot provide a more general suggestion. So that's why it was also easier for us in this case to have some remote actual acceleration. As we started with remote acceleration before COVID, actually, since the very first activities that we, the first acceleration programs that we have provided, because of course when a startup is not, we target European startups in particular. So, of course, there are some pros of having startups in the same place, but also if there is a company that has already a team set up in their own office, probably asking them to stay 6 months away. We thought that was not particularly useful. So in this sense, we were a bit privileged to have already experienced the remote acceleration. Then, of course, we tried then to create, or we will try again to create events where they can meet each other, because for sure having them in the same rooms or having them meeting investors and customers one-to-one physically is definitely a plus. But I think we will, as we are listening this from all type of industry, but I think we will also, for the acceleration, we will continue to have some hybrids combination. I know I changed a bit the topic, but no. I also answered Lars' input.
No. It was definitely on topic. The idea of having not only a tailored program, but having a multi-layering, let's say, in the dynamics you manage in terms of tools. I think it's really important today. I would like to pick some questions from the audience as well. In particular, there's a question from Tabea van Leijer that says that she's on her mission to create a new production standards for more sustainability within automatic cutting rooms. And she's asking which group of investors would be the right to contact and connect. Maybe it's a very specific topic, talking about tailored support. So in general, I think an interesting question is how a startup understand which is the right investors to connect with in order to get the opportunity to start a conversation and eventually get funded.
Yeah, if I can answer this, I think that in particular for tech innovative projects in sustainability, I think that the EU is really working hard with the EIASME program with the SME grant to sponsor sustainable technological projects. So I know that we are in the same framework here, and it can be it requires some effort to develop the project, but there is really a lot of interest from the EU Commission to finance this type of project. So my suggestion is to look at this type of this program first.
Lars, Simon, you have any other suggestion on this point?
Since we also have like a generic tech program in the Borås incubator. So, and I would say that it's more a matter of or a question of what stage you're at. Because it's a very ambitious project that she's trying to embark on a journey of. So it depends. Is there a proof? If it's not a proof, then you go back to another generic saying of friends, fools, and family. Because if you haven't proven anything, then you either go to the European Union, as Giusy said, because they are more willing to take that kind of risk. But investors, they need some kind of proof because they're looking to get a return on investment. So they need to know something about what to invest in. So what I'm trying to say is that, of course, there are sector-specific investors, but I would say that there are a ton of stage-specific investors that would look at a fashion tech innovation as long as there's some kind of proof. Doesn't really matter what you're doing. If you're solving problems in the value chain or if you're trying to set new standards for types of materials. So I would try to ask myself, like, what stage am I in? How much proof do I have? Do I have revenue? If I answer no to all of those questions, I would definitely go for Giusy's recommendation to go to the European Union or the public.
Clear.
To start and get some traction, some kind of proof of concept, and then you move to business angels.
That is pretty clear, like a matrix of how to enter the fashion tech business. And Jan, we would like to hear from your direct experience. How did you understand which was the right investor for you?
Like I'm in the same situation. I don't have an investor right now. Like I'm my own investor, and like Simon said, like we have some family, friends, and fools who helped us also, like in this project. But that's it actually. And I was also wondering, because that's also our challenge somehow. Like what is this kind of like? What do you have to show the investor that he says, okay, that's the proof of concept? Is this a revenue of 100,000, or is it an interest from a large company, or what is it? That's also interesting for me.
Yeah. I understand that. Also, I can answer that because it depends on where you are in a supply chain, no matter what industry you're in. I mean, if you are solving something with, like Studio Hilo, for example, with their knitting machine, if they were to secure a letter of intent with somebody who develops machinery, for example, and them saying that we will help investing in kind to develop this machinery, which will save you X amount of money, then that's sort of a proof of concept for an investor, that a major player in the industry is engaged in this project. But if you're selling something to a consumer, are you selling something to someone other than your friends? I think what you should always do is set up a metrics chart, like what is important for you to measure, because what you measure has to do with being evident that you're solving something or offering something that is desired, and work with that metrics chart as a proof all the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting, because like we most recently reached out to a major company, and they took some interest in our material, and they are now talking about it in their innovation and investment department. And if I have like I don't know, like if I get this sign that they have some interest, that would be, for example, a proof of concept, which is really interesting, or also for investors, I would mean. Like,
I would assume so. It sounds like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Wow, this is an interesting point, and is connected to another question we received that asked our panelists, what do you think about giving much more access to piloting or developing proof of concepts opportunity to the startups, referring to the opportunity to demonstrate and co-design a solution that a startup want to provide with fashion stakeholders themselves. And I would like to complicate the question a little bit more, adding, what do you think about the relationship between big companies and startups. This morning we have had another panel, and there was this idea of how a big company or the fashion stakeholders in general can support startup. So as accelerators are looking for ideas already scaling up and need to have proofs of revenues and so on, as Jan was saying, how do you see can be an alternative to work with piloting ideas within the fashion sector? Maybe Lars, wanna start?
I have a first-hand experience of this, but it's from a more general perspective, because in Lund we have something called a smart city platform, which includes everything, also fashion, of course, but mainly tech solutions for society and smart cities. But the platform itself is actually academia, big businesses like Sony, Tetra Pak, Axis, and all these big companies, and startups, and the society. And what we created is a play field, or playing field, where you can actually test different ideas, pilots and things like that, and get traction or not, fail early, or actually take it step by step to the next level. And as an investor, we actually invested in 2 companies in this platform, because they've got the opportunity to pilot the ideas through the platform with big and small companies, and actually create this kind of proof of concept that an investor needs to invest even in the early stage. It's about all the risk minimizing and the creating potential for success, of course. So I think we're there again in the ecosystem. We need to have every part of the ecosystem involved, the academia, in this case, the society, even the citizens, and the startups, and the big companies.
Yeah.
Because we're all afraid to enter this kind of area where we are not, familiar with. And that's the area where we actually create all this kind of innovation together. So when into these silos, we are kind of closed. We need to break them up, and go into the playing field together and start innovating. And that's the same way for fashion tech, I think.
Well, I think it's... sorry, Simon.
No worries. I just wanted to give a silent applaud to H&M for being really strategic with the Global Innovation Award, because what they do is cut off from the core business of linear fashion into a foundation where they seed fund really early projects to create these proof of concepts. So to close the ecosystem, it needs to be opened up. I mean, more big companies, as Lars was talking about, from the fashion and tech perspective, needs to be willing to join these platforms. I mean, for mobility in Sweden, in Gothenburg, there's an entire city, part of a city built for mobility. So you can test autonomous cars and stuff like that. That needs to enter the fashion tech space much more.
Yeah, I think that with this, we are pulling all the strings that we have covered since the beginning, but adding even more attention to the concept of sustainability, meant also as social and cultural sustainability, as the idea of piloting within cities and within the concept of citizenship is very much important, and is the opportunity for fashion and fashion tech to reacquire an active role within the society, and expand even more the meaning of what's fashion tech, without reducing, as Giusy was saying, the innovation to the use of an e-commerce, which actually it's a different matter. So it's also the idea of being able to read the need of collaboration, not just between fashion and technology, but between industry, public, government, universities. So again, being able to tailor within the ability to span over different skills and angles and perspective. So I want to use this last two minutes that we still have to sum up with this perspective and hear from you, which has been the main change you have seen in this year of experience within the activity with startups you have had. If there has been any change that sign state of the art, let's say, of working with a startup today. Maybe Giusy, you wanna quickly answer? Then we have just to close as 1 minute is left.
Well, no, I think that it increase, of course, remote working, and I think that also very quickly the possibility to access more stakeholders, because everybody is using digital. So it's normal to get online, and you can easily reach more investors and so on. Then to follow up, okay, maybe it's not so easy, but at least you can start reaching out to much more people.
So hopefully this panel gave some tools some more tools to our startups in the public. I thank you all for your participation and great insights, and please continue to be part of our DeFINE network and the community we have been building up. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Ciao.
Bye.